Welcome to Chicks Who Fly, where we celebrate and empower women pilots and aspiring pilots on their aviation journey. I'm Inaia, and today we're going to talk about something that's a bit of an unpopular opinion within the traditional way of doing your flight training, but that in my opinion can give you way more bang for your buck than the conventional way of going through your pilot training, and that can completely transform your ground school experience, as well as how much your flight training ends up costing you. We are going to talk about desktop simulators, which in my humble opinion are an underappreciated tool that can take your early flight training to the next level. So if you're serious about becoming a skilled and confident pilot, this episode is for you. Let's get started. When you're new to flight training, everything can feel a bit overwhelming. You've got books, charts, procedures, and what can seem like a foreign language. It's a lot to take in. But during my time working at my old airline, in the simulator, the FTD, and the classroom, I learned that there's a way to bring all that theory to life before even setting foot in the actual airplane. From the very beginning of my flight training journey, I was heavily encouraged to chair fly as often as possible. This is where you sit in a chair, close your eyes, and imagine yourself going through the motions of a flight, moving your hands, speaking out loud, and visualizing every step. The problem was that all the concepts and procedures were so new to me that I had no idea how to properly chair fly. If you take into account the Law of Primacy, which we learn in the fundamentals of instruction when we're preparing to become aviation instructors, this law says that the initial presentation of a concept, procedure, or skill must be accurate, clear, and well-structured. Because if a student learns something incorrectly or incompletely the first time, it can be challenging to correct or unlearn that misconception later on. So it is really important to practice correctly and in a realistic simulated environment. This is especially true if you're really new to a concept or an aircraft, so that it's really difficult or impossible to imagine the environment and practice the procedure correctly. This is where desktop simulators come in. These tools allow you to step into the virtual cockpit and start immediately applying what you've learned. Unlike an actual training flight where you're juggling several tasks at once, adrenaline is flowing, a simulator gives you the ability to focus on one task at a time. Take your time getting to know the cockpit, the instruments, the procedures, maneuvers, and even emergencies in a controlled, no-pressure environment where you can pause, rewind, and repeat until you've nailed it. This kind of deep, focused practice is incredibly valuable, especially early on in your training. With a simulator, you're not just imagining. You're interacting with the controls, hearing the sounds, and seeing the outcomes of your reactions in real time in a realistic simulated environment. It's a much richer experience that reinforces what you're learning in a way that's far more effective than visualizing or chair flying alone. One of the best uses for a desktop simulator is practicing flows, checklists, and procedures for basic maneuvers. We've all been told to memorize these, but let's be real. Just running through them in your head or flipping through flashcards can only get you so far. With a simulator, you can practice those flows in the exact order with the exact timing that you would in the real aircraft. Hearing the sounds, the clicks, much like how we used to learn a new piece of choreography and practice it in my old days as a professional dancer. With a simulator, you can see the instruments responding, see the switches flipping. It becomes muscle memory. When you're practicing a procedure like a power-off stall or an engine failure in the simulator, it allows you to get comfortable with the sequence of actions before you ever get into the real aircraft. This familiarity can reduce stress and mental load significantly when you're in the cockpit, where things can get intense quickly. It is this level of detail that makes simulators so effective for training. That's why we use them in the airlines. Because here's the thing about flight training. It's expensive. Every hour you spend in the airplane comes with a hefty price tag. But what if you could shave hours off of your flight training in the actual airplane by mastering the skills and procedures in a simulator first? By the time you're in the airplane, you're not wasting time getting familiar with the instruments, the controls, and struggling to remember checklists. You've already done all of that in the simulator. Think of the simulator as a rehearsal before the big show. You're ironing out the kinks, building confidence, and ensuring that by the time you get in the air, every minute is spent effectively. This approach not only speeds up your learning curve, but it also saves you money because you're maximizing every flight hour. Another area where simulators shine is in real-world scenarios. In a perfect world, you'd be able to practice things like engine failures, instrument malfunctions, and flying through nasty weather conditions every time you fly. But that's not realistic or safe. A simulator lets you practice these critical skills in a way that's both safe and repeatable. You can run through an engine-out scenario a dozen times, trying different approaches and seeing how each one plays out. This kind of preparation is invaluable when you're facing a real emergency because you've already been there and done that in a simulated environment. It builds a level of confidence and competence that's hard to achieve any other way. When it comes to the cost of flight training, getting the most out of every dollar is imperative. By using a desktop simulator or joining a ground school that uses realistic simulated environments, you're essentially front-loading your training, mastering basics, practicing emergencies, and refining your skills all on the ground. This means that when you're in the air, you're not paying to practice something you could have learned at home. You are paying to apply what you've already learned in the simulator or in your ground school. Over time, this approach can save you thousands of dollars, making your journey to becoming a pilot significantly more affordable. Even after earning your wings, the learning doesn't stop. Continuous practice is key to staying sharp and safe. Realistic simulated environments are perfect for this. Whether you are preparing for a check ride or learning a new aircraft, or just keeping your skills fresh, a simulator lets you keep flying even if you're grounded for maintenance, weather, or any other reason. It's a great way to stay proficient, especially in those scenarios that don't often come up in real-world flying, but that you want to be good at in case they actually do show up. I would argue that desktop simulators are more than just a fun tool. They're an essential part of modern flight training, helping you learn faster, save money, and helping you become a safer, more confident pilot. If you haven't yet incorporated a simulator into your flight training, trust me, it's a game changer. Thanks for joining me today on Chicks Who Fly. If you found this episode helpful, I would love it if you could share it with your fellow aviators, like and subscribe, because it really helps the algorithm get these videos out to more aspiring pilots like you. And don't forget to check out chickswhofly.com for more resources, videos, including our upcoming webinars, or to inquire about doing your ground school training with us, where we incorporate live simulator footage and realistic simulated cockpit and flight environment. And if you're ready to take your flight training to the next level, book a free ground school intro call with us so we can discuss your goal and see how we can make your flight training journey more effective and efficient. I'm Inaia, and until next time, keep flying high and remember that the sky is just the beginning.